Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I got married to the person I had dated for 2 years. My dad was his dad's partner. We interacted in my dad's office and sometimes in gatherings. It started with friendship and we soon developed a love for each other. As we were dating, we decided to move in together so we could know each other better. He was already on his own and I just had to move in with him. We were so excited to live together and I had planned so much together. It was so overwhelming as in those days I was head over heels with this guy and could not spend a day without him. As we moved in together, he did his best to make me feel at home. His house was so warm and welcoming, and it felt like life was just going to be more beautiful from now on. I joined my dad's office after a while. We would leave for work together, come back and cook together, would have a movie together, or would just go out. I had shifted there for a week only when my sister-in-law visited. I made sure she felt welcomed and did my best to put an impression. To be honest, my sister-in-law looked more like an inspection team than a family member. She stayed for 2 days and I left. My husband told me that she had never visited him before and he could not understand why she was there. I told him that maybe she was here to see how I was doing and what sort of person I was. You know, sister duties. A year or so passed, and my husband proposed to me on my birthday. I was on top of the world and instantly said yes. We started preparing for our wedding and were paying attention to every detail because we wanted it to be the best day of our lives. During those days, my husband received a call from his home and his mom wanted to see him. He went there and his mom told him that it was better for him if he had reconsidered his decision. His mom told him that she had come to know that I was not a suitable match, as we both were very different and I was a spoilt brat raised by a proud, rich man. My husband told them that they had misunderstood me and he was absolutely fine with whatever sort of person I was. He also told them that they did not have anything to do with it as it was his life and his choices. We could not understand why his mom felt like that because she had never come over or stayed with us. I thought she had just judged me while interacting with me in the gatherings and was just being a bit possessive of her son. She called again and asked her son if he was sure about me, and this pissed my husband off. Well, we did not talk about this and got married the same month, and the event was wholesome. Everything was just so perfect, and I felt like a queen. A month passed, and my sister-in-law came to stay with us. She was a quiet person, so even if I tried to accompany her or tried to start a conversation, she would end it in a minute or two. I tried to develop a friendly bond, but she seemed disinterested. So I just gave up and minded my own business. I returned from the gym to find out that my dressing table was a total mess. Everything was thrown here and there, and some of my lipsticks were broken. I called my house to ask what had been happening there, to which she replied that my sister-in-law had been there. I asked her how she could allow her to, which she said that my sister-in-law was not listening to her and told her that it was her brother's house. I went to my sister-in-law and asked what was going on and what she had tried to do. She told me that she was just looking for a lipstick shade that would go with her dress, as she was attending a party in the evening. I told her that there was a way for everything and she should have asked me before barging into my room, to which she replied that she could not wait. I told her that she could not enter my room ever again in my absence and left. When my husband came back, she went to him weeping, saying that I had insulted her in front of the house help. I told my husband what she had done and also that if she had to stay here, she would have to learn some manners. My husband agreed with me and told her that she had to behave herself from now on. My sister-in-law had gone back on the same day, of course, and had told her mom all about the scene. My mother-in-law called my husband and told him that he was supposed to care for his sister, but he had insulted her in front of his wife. My husband told his mom about whatever had actually happened. My mother-in-law said that it was no big deal and I was not a queen, that anybody could enter my room or borrow my things. My husband told her it was okay to enter the room or borrow something, but she could at least take my permission or had done that in my presence. My mother-in-law was furious. My sister-in-law would visit now and then and would not let us even breathe. She was again here when my husband told her that we were going for our honeymoon and she could go back to her house. She told us that either we were taking her along or we were letting her stay here in our absence. I asked her how could she be so dumb as to who would join her brother on his honeymoon, and secondly, why would I let her stay when I was not there? I told her that I did not trust her and she had to go back. My mother-in-law intervened again and told my husband that I was no one to kick my sister-in-law out of her son's house. My husband told her that it was he who would not allow his sister to stay there in our absence. She said that she would leave in a day or two after we had gone. I made sure I had locked my room because, of course, she was up to something. We told our house help to inform us with every minor detail of what was going on until she had left. Just when we had left, my sister-in-law threw a huge party at our place. She had called her friends, friends of friends, and I guess the whole city, according to my house help. My husband called her and told her that she was not supposed to do that in our absence, and she did not even ask for permission. She told him that he had better enjoy his honeymoon and stop bothering her. My husband knew what he had to do. He called the police and informed them about the situation. In no time, the party was raided, and police made my sister-in-law leave the place immediately. We already had received calls from my mother-in-law, who was furious and told us that it was so disgusting of us to involve the police and that we had disrespected her daughter. As we returned from the honeymoon, we tried to avoid my husband's family because we knew they would be terribly upset and we had no answers to their questions. We both knew that my sister-in-law could not be stopped in any other way. My husband went to his mom and told her about the whole situation. He told her that he never wanted to do that, but her daughter had pushed him to take such a step. I asked her how he could bear so many unknown people on his private property, that too without his permission. He told her that it was the reason he was not ready to let her stay when we were away on our honeymoon. My mother-in-law somehow understood, but was still upset because her darling daughter was hurt. My husband also tried to talk to her, and she said that she had been insulted in front of her guests, and this was the least she had expected from her brother. My husband told her that she was put in this situation by herself. So much drama, but my sister-in-law was again here to stay with us, and God knows with what mission this time. I, of course, could not stay at home all the time keeping an eye on her, as I was a working woman and had my routine. I used to lock my room, but she had created a scene saying that according to me, she was a thief, so I had to put locks everywhere. I told her that I would not lock anything, but if I ever found that she had sneaked into my space, I would not spare her. Even if she does not do anything, why could she just not go back to her house and let us live in peace? My sister-in-law was just unstoppable, and I had to teach her a lesson. I returned from work and found out that my jewelry boxes had been misplaced. I knew someone had inspected them and who that someone was. I was so furious but did not say anything. We were dining when I saw my sister-in-law wearing the earrings that my husband had gifted me. I asked her if she asked me before taking them, to which she replied that she would give them back. I told her that it was not the answer to my question. I knew I had to stop her, so I had an idea. I bought some stuff the next day when I was returning from the office. I was all set to teach her in her style. I took the red food color in a dropper and put a few drops here and there. I knew she would notice because she was a one-man inspection team. The next day, I placed a piece of chicken in the wash basin of her bathroom with a few drops of red food color. To be honest, I could hear her shrieks. She was terribly scared at the breakfast table, but there was something more on its way to her. I had placed a dagger and gloves in my closet with food color dripping from them. I came back from the office and found she was nowhere. My house help told me that she had left with her stuff. I ran to my room to check if my plan had worked, and to my surprise, my closet was wide open as she dared not come closer after she had opened it. I laughed so hard. NTA, I guess this was the best way to get rid of her, as she was not ready to leave you guys alone. You tried to handle her, but she was too unruly to back off. The way your husband called the police and got her party raided was already enough for a wise person to learn, but that empty-headed miss was not ready to understand and give space to you two while staying in your house. NTA loved the way you made her run for her life. I bet she would not be back for a long time. I wonder what she had understood from the signs. Perhaps you were a serial killer or a witch, because the baby girl was scared as hell. She was too unbearable, and that drama queen needed a thriller. How could someone stay at her brother's house knowing that he had a family now and needed space?
Next story.
I'll start by telling the background story of what happened to my wife and where this left us, so my post makes sense. Some years ago, my wife was injured at her job. My wife didn't cause the situation, but she was the one who was injured. She lost a limb as a result. Her company was investigated under OHSA, and there was also legal trouble for them because there were major safety violations that led to what happened to my wife. We took the money my wife received in the aftermath to purchase a home, and with the bit that was left over, we invested for our retirement, as my wife and I were in our 30s when it happened. We are comfortable having no mortgage, no debt, and our savings, but we aren't living like we have a bottomless pit. Our house isn't a mansion. Our vehicles are used. We don't have expensive clothing or unlimited vacations. Both of us still work part-time because we want to keep our resumes current. We don't want to rely solely on the money from what happened to my wife because that is our nest egg, and frankly, we both need something to do besides be at home. What happened to my wife was traumatic beyond any words I have. I love my wife exactly how she is, but both of us agree that we would trade our house and nest egg for our old shoebox studio apartment and the debt we had before, if it meant that my wife could go back to how she was before the injury. The money we got was not from something happy. Also, we have never bragged or flaunted our money at anyone. Everyone knows why my wife got that money. There was no way to hide her injury, hospital stay, and rehabilitation, but we don't talk about it to anyone, even though what happened is public. My wife's brother got engaged, and we had the two of them over for dinner and drinks. His fiancée had the gall to tell my wife and me how lucky she was to have the accident because it got her money to be able to afford a house in an expensive market. She further told her he would gladly chop off her own limb, the same limb my wife was missing, to have a free house and to not have to go to work every day. I told her to leave my house because her comment was so out of line to me. My brother-in-law got mad at me for sticking my nose in a family argument, and later I got an angry call from my in-laws because he told them I threw them out. He did not tell them why, but when I repeated his comment, they said the same thing my brother-in-law said, which is that she was probably just nervous and not thinking straight, and that since affording a house here was impossible, her envy is understandable. My brother-in-law wants me to apologize. The only one of my in-laws who isn't mad at me is my wife's oldest brother. So, was I TA for getting involved in my wife's familial dispute? Normally, I would never, but in the heat of the moment, I saw red. NTA, the dispute did involve you. We see so many posts on here where the verdict goes the other way because a partner didn't step up to defend the other. You love your wife, and you're both very realistic about what transpired. What the fiancé said was tacky, disrespectful, and lightly cruel.
Next story.
A little background. I, 28, male, live in a big city, and yard space for entertaining is a luxury. I inherited 10 acres of land from my grandfather, which he bought in the 1970s. It's a dream location for an Easter egg hunt, and 90% of the family events are held on my property. There are 2 houses on the property. My house that I had built 2 years ago, and my grandfather's house, which has remained untouched since he died. I'm an atheist, and you will not catch me in a church, but I have no problem celebrating religious holidays like Easter if there is food involved. My dad and his wife are more active in church than most of the family. My family was getting together for Easter, and my dad asked me as a favor to let his wife invite her church friends for an egg hunt after lunch. I reluctantly agreed. This pious kid, who I thought at the time was 12 to 13 from his size, but I found out later he is 9, asked me why I never go to church. Keep in mind, I have never met this kid in my life, so I can only assume he has heard something about me from my stepmom. All I said was church was not my thing. He asked why not. I said a different viewpoint, and he wanted to know what religion I was. I said I do not belong to any religion, and I consider myself an atheist. He asked what that is, and I said I do not believe in a higher power. From that conversation, he told me I was a devil worshipper. I was like, what the I told him I sure was, and in the house he would see my animal sacrifices mounted on the wall. I told him everyone thinks I got those deer from hunting, but they really are sacrifices. This kid lost his shit. He ran screaming to his mom. I was a devil worshipper and sacrificed animals. He was crying with snot running down his face. At first, my dad and stepmom did not get what the kid was saying because I don't hunt. The deer mounted on the walls belonged to my grandfather. My dad asked why this kid thinks you are a devil worshipper who killed deer. I told him the kid was nosy and made assumptions that I agreed with. I got yelled at by this kid's parents. They are yelling at me red-faced, and I cannot stop laughing, telling me about my prosperity and that I'm evil. I told them to go take their superstitious BS off my property. I am catching so much hell. Drama Llama, stepmom, is saying I have humiliated her in front of the entire church, and she will never forgive me. I told her I don't care. I reminded her I only tolerate her. My dad wrote a public apology on his Facebook on my behalf. There was some backlash from the family, and he deleted it. I feel a family meeting coming on, which I won't subject myself to. AITA for agreeing with this little brat about his assumptions? I really think they overreacted. I might have taken it too far with the deer sacrifice. NTA, and ignore every single AH on here saying that you are. The kid should have been taught better. Not your problem. You have more patience than I do. There is not a snowball's chance in hell I would have agreed to allow a bunch of religious people onto my property, and the moment any of them attempted to spout their religious nonsense off, they would have been escorted off my property. Teach your children that they do not get to ask inappropriate questions to others, and anything religious,